Back at it with another episode of the Questions Hip Hop Podcast. It's a Making Illmatic episode. I'm your host, Sean Kantrowitz, and joined always by my co-host, co-conspirator, fellow musical psychopath, MidaZ the Beast.
Bobby, I couldn't do it. B.O.B.B.Y, Digi.
How many rogue RZA Bobby Digital ad libs are we gonna let fly in this episode?
Oh man, if I had my full voice, I'm a little under the weather. If I had my full voice, I would bust out the whole episode. But we'll keep it light.
Yeah, we can add it in post, but we're not here by ourselves. We're joined by a close friend, collaborator on so many fronts. Not his first time on the podcast either. You longtime listeners may remember that we did Redman's Muddy Waters with him, and that has definitely been an episode that has been a fan favorite. We are joined all the way from Orlando, Florida, TzariZM.
What's up? What up? What up, family? In the building. Bobby all day. We gonna get into it. You know what I mean?
Terrorism.
98 flavors. 98 flavors.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk all about the album that we're doing for Making Illmatic is RZA's first solo album as the RZA, Bobby Digital and Stereo. But before we get into that, we always like to talk about what everybody is working on right now. And you guys, I'm in the presence of some album droppers right now. We got some lasers shooting in the background. If you're not, watching this, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Tell me a little bit about the album that you guys just dropped.
Being that I'm a co-host, I'll let this be when you talk primarily to Czar about this stuff. So, yeah, I'll pass it to TZ.
So Czar, what is MidaZ really like?
Yeah, right.
That's my brother right there. Yeah, so MidaZ the Beast and TzariZM, we released an album together, producer MC type stuff, called the Vivid Laser Eye Guy, and it was a fun record. It's an album full of just dope ass beats and rhymes, but conceptually it's in the vibe of like 50s sci-fi movies, and kind of bringing that vibe and mixing that into the mix of just you already know the type of beast mode lyricism that MidaZ brings, and I kind of spaced out with the production on some sci-fi, this and that with some boom bap in the mix and just some crazy stuff. So, but the album was released not that long ago. We got one video out for our first single was Info Kill 3, and a couple more videos in the chamber coming, and we got a feature. The features are light, but they're from some heavy spitters. From Extended Fam, Tri-State. You know what I'm saying, representing, and also Cerebral Supreme. So Supreme Cerebral. So we laced it up. We did this in like only a few months, I think. On the heavy tip, I think we knocked it out. It was a fun album to do, and I mean, y'all should cop, man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, check it out. It's on the Bandcamps. It's on all the streaming services, all that good stuff. So, but last detail, it's an album. Even though MidaZ and I have been working on stuff since he was a teenager, so it was just it kind of was like a capstone or a moment where we finally decided to just focus on dropping an album together instead of just doing music to do it, because. And actually, it's not the first album we did together either. Right. I mean, we also have other albums that just haven't been released yet. So yeah, it's to me, it was a fun record. That's the word I use when I talk about it. It was just very fun to do. I was very excited. And I think we put together something legendary. So
yeah, for sure.
Let me ask you this. We're going to be talking about an album today that's by a producer, and he took a different approach to the music. You've been making beats for so long. For those who don't know, like in our circle and the like inner and outer rim of the circle of everybody that I know who makes music, and so many of them have been featured. Czar, you're kind of like pretty deep at the root of the tree that we all fall from. We're further into the future than we've ever been. The ways that people can make beats has changed dramatically since, the early days. And, the vibe of the album is 50s vintage sci-fi. What was like making and tapping into that style in 2024 or 2023? I don't know when you guys actually did it.
Yeah, it was this year, all this year.
It was this year, yeah.
Yeah. It was exhilarating. I hate to keep saying the same word over and over again when I say fun. What's the synonym for fun? So I could switch it up. Someone tell me. But
we'll fix it in
fun.
post.
It was fun in regards where, like when I'm a big fan of conceptual albums, conceptual projects, and so whenever there's this is the vibe on the table, as a producer or a collaborator, like for some reason I'm way more into it. You know what I mean? Than just, all right, let's just do some songs. Like, so I like being in character. I like that whole premise when doing albums. And any of my past projects, honestly, all of them, I can't even really think of one that's not, has some sort of conceptual foundation behind it, whether it was character or a certain style, or we represent these entities or something like that. So when MidaZ approached me with the title and the ideas he had behind it, I just flew with it. Like, we both we shared like a drive of all types of like old movies, 50 sci-fi movies, TV shows, and clips from this and that. And, I just dived deep into them. I dived deep in them, and I just started listening to them, and I was just like, yeah. And on the low, I felt like this is like, I kind of felt like this project is like MidaZ and I's like Mad Villainy type of record. Like it's like it's something you listen to from start to end. It's a whole album, and everything just makes sense, and it's different than I think it's different than a lot of the records in MidaZ's catalog, and definitely different than a lot of mine. So but me personally, I feel like I'm in my best when I actually focus on one person or one entity, a rapper, when doing a record. I feel like that's when you get the best out of me, particularly.
Indeed. Well, we just dived deep into that album. Now we're about to dive deep into the RZA's first album, B.O.B.B.Y Digital in Stereo. Before we kick it off, Zar, you kind of came with the idea to do this album. What made this, or no, was this a MidaZ? Oh,
it was MidaZ.
Scratch all that. All right.
But he knew who to get for this stuff. So.
Yeah, nah. I purposely was like, nah, I would love to do this with Zar. And about 4 different people have hit me up about doing this album. And
there's always those ones that exist that like they're very popular.
Me up about doing it.
Yeah.
But I was like, nah, I would love to do this one with Zar, because we've had conversations about this record before. This would have been a great album to do with like a crew. Like, we could have did this with 7 people and had very spirited conversation, because this album evokes like real passionate convo, because people feel all over the spectrum about it.
Yeah. I do have certain feelings for it, because the record came out in 98. That was actually my first year in Florida. That's when I first moved to Florida. I graduated in high school in 98. So I moved to Florida, and I'm already 100% Wu-Tang fan, right?
Right.
So nobody could tell me anything about. In fact, I was the only. I recruited Wu-Tang fans at my high school. I was the Wu-Tang person. Like, whenever people saw me,
I similarly was the same thing in high school. So
you already know.
This is one of the places that we connect.
You know what I'm saying? So
like me and the RZA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel it was my birthright. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, I'm like, oh, RZA got the album, right? This is going to trip you out. Where I actually bought the album, I bought it on cassette, and it was actually at the Magic Mall. And my Orlando folks know about the Magic Mall.
Wow.
It's on the west side of Orlando.
That is interesting.
Yeah, out of all places.
Yeah, for real.
I don't, probably some chick or something. I was on that side of town, and then I just decided to drop by the Magic Mall, and I was like, boom, there it is. And the cassette, if anyone has never seen the B.O.B.B.Y Digital album in cassette, it's actually like a cigarette carton, you lift it up, so you take the plastic off, you lift up the cassette. So it had the dopest, that was the first I ever got an album that was packaged that
I
way.
don't think
So
I've seen any that have followed like that since. Like it
was really dope packaging, and then when you mix it with the artwork,
artwork
was crazy.
So for me, it was like, I'm ready mode. Now the feelings I had when I listened to the album was very mixed. I was all over the place. It was
it's a complicated record. It's a complicated record because I think we have to frame this here. It was released November 24th, 1998 through G Street /V2 Records. This is post Wu-Tang Forever. Wu-Tang is not just an entity. It's not just an institution. It's a movement. I mean, they had guys in Florida working some sort of pyramid scheme, street team to recruit members, and like, we don't even know, like, did you guys ever even get your residuals off that? Like, what was the science behind that? But I mean, there was a lot of anticipation. All of the members, the core members, or most of them anyway, had dropped their solo albums. We mentioned earlier, obviously RZA had the We Love You Rakim, but that was pre-Wu-Tang. That didn't really count. And as the maestro, as the main force behind the musical movement of all things Wu-Tang, there was a lot of attention as to, okay, what is this going to be? Is this also, now I've talked about this before on the show. I definitely was not as deep in the Wu chambers as you guys were at this time. I've done a lot of Wu recon in the years since, but was The Cure already being whispered about at this point, or no?
Well, whispered about, yeah. It wasn't. I mean, it never was going to come, but
well, of course. But
so to answer your question, and Zara, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I remember The Cure was a thing from when we got the Tragedy joint. It was already like The Cure.
The Cure, right? By the way, was the rumored it was going to be the RZA solo album. It was going to be called The Cure, and like so many producer prophesized albums, everybody just projects every hope and dream they have onto this thing that sometimes doesn't happen, or it comes out and it fails to. It doesn't live up to.
Yeah. Right. Like Tragedy comes out. Tragedy. What soundtrack was Tragedy on? It was on a soundtrack.
Rhyme and Reason. Rhyme or Reason. One, it was Rhyme
and Reason. Yeah. And Tragedy had the dope video, and it's like kind of the first time that you're getting like a RZA solo cut, type of deal. Yeah. And Tragedy is a beloved song in the Wu-Tang annals. It comes out. It's crazy. And, it's like, oh shit, this RZA album is going to come, and it's going to be like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be like this. And I think what fed that even more is that you get the Gravediggers record, right? That Gravediggers record comes out. Didn't the Gravediggers record come out? Yeah, the second one. The second one.
It was very close.
97,
I want to say. 97, right? So
you get the same year Tragedy came out. Yeah.
You get Tragedy, you get the Gravediggers second record, and then you get Wu-Tang Forever. And all of those three things, RZA's rapping a certain way on those three things, right? Like, he's not like all over that second Gravedigger record. Like, people probably think he is, but if you were to go through that second Gravediggers, RZA's on maybe not half of the album. Maybe he's on maybe 5 joints on that record, or 6 joints on that record. It's mostly the other. It's mostly Fruquan and
it's not really Prince Paul involved that much either.
Prince Paul's not. Prince Paul's less involved,
right? So it's a weird. If you look at what the DNA for Gravediggers was, it's like, wait, so if we don't have these elements, people. It's not a terrible record. It's just a different record than the first record.
It's a different record, right? Sure. Like it's a very different record than the first Gravediggers. But the RZA features on there, the parts that he's on, he's doing like that. He's mathematics and science, right? And Tragedy, mathematics and science. And even his stuff that he raps on Wu-Tang Forever, mathematics and science. Like, he's doing a lot of that. So I remember when the album was announced, when the Bobby Digital album was announced, I was super confused.
Me too. I just remember seeing, I was like, this is it? Whatever we getting, so let's roll with it. And so I'm gonna piggyback on that. With that, kind of set me up for some disappointment. The Cure talk
for sure.
How strong the Tragedy joint was.
For sure.
The Gravediggers album actually was really dope too, in my opinion. So Yeah. So I'm thinking, all right, well, we moving on. Either we're gonna get the same type of chamber or it's gonna be better. Right.
Yeah.
And we got Bobby Digital.
We got a different chamber.
And this was also a soundtrack to a film that didn't come out that he sank an incredible amount of money. I was like reading up on it. It was like it was definitely a big budget thing that eventually got scrapped. But as you can see in the artwork and the way some of the things are presented, this was sort of being queued up to tie in with a visual component, which that also. So what? Okay, before we get into the album,
let's do it. Let's do it.
I want to talk with the Wu-Tang enthusiasts here, and I know that there's not going to be a definitive answer unless we ask the RZA himself. But what do you think fucking happened here? Because this was definitely a hard left turn. We'll get into more of that as we go in, but before we really do, like, what as Wu-Tang archivists, analysts, as you guys are. What was the science behind this?
I got a thought, but
you go first. I have a theory, but I'm gonna let Zara run first.
So I feel like that album was his like rebellious record, from the style of production, from the style of music they were putting out. There's a line he says like it's like right at the start of I think the second song in the album.
Right? Beats and Breaks. Yeah, he was talking about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Looping up the same shit for 1,000 years.
Right. To me, that sets the foundation of what to expect on this record. I remember hearing that line. I was like, dang. Because, I mean, all the Wu-Tang records are built on kind of like, drum breaks and
looping up the same shit for 1,000 years.
and loops. And right? So this was the rebellious record. Like, there's a couple of songs that do have loops on there in the samples, but you could tell he was trying to be different. Now, the other part of that is that it could have been economic thing. Like it could be just the facts like
you gotta clear these samples.
Pay for samples. Yeah, exactly. He maybe got in some trouble or he saw how much he paid for them throughout the records he was producing and was like, nah, this is the new wave. I'm gonna go Digi with it. So, his rebellious record against analog productions, so to say. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to add some philosophy to it, right? So I think the timing of this is really interesting, right? Because if you watch the Wu-Tang show, you'll get some of this. And if you've read some of the books and things that have come out about them, you'll get this. This is the end of the 5-year plan, right? Forever is the end of the 5-year plan.
Which was RZA's whole architecture of how he was going to make Wu-Tang huge. And I'm just, for those who are listening, you might not know. Yep. Yeah, and like how he basically was going to put them all on the solo albums, different labels. Like his plan to take over the world that miraculously worked.
Yeah, that worked. Right. Yeah. So it's the end of the 5-year plan. And the group is more or less in shambles. Because like if you look at the show, like, they didn't like the direction of Wu-Tang Forever. Like they didn't like where things were going and everybody wanted their contracts back and all that contract stuff and all the stuff started happening that was going to happen around in the 97 or 97 and beyond, right? Another part of that, again, like what they were showing in the show, RZA's trying to test out new sounds and he wants to quote unquote expand, and they're not really with it. Like the group's not really with the sound direction that he's trying to go into.
Is this all in the Hulu show, or are you talking about the Showtime documentary?
No, this was in the Hulu show.
Oh man, I got to finish that. All right.
Oh
yeah. But
it's not all true, but like
right. But what's interesting about it not being all true or not, right? Like one of my takes away from the Hulu show is this is RZA's perspective. Like, it's RZA's show.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So like the details aren't all true, but the point behind the details is all from the RZA perspective. So like there's a piece in the show that I think ties in really well with this album where it's at the end where they're starting to work on Wu-Tang Forever and he finally he's having all this trouble getting the guys to come to the studio. Like that was a big episode. Like he can't get them to come to the studio at the same time. And then he finally gets the guys to come to the studio. And when they walk in, there's an orchestra in the living room. And they're all like, and of course, he's got Raekwon angry in the show. And he's like, yo, the fuck is this? And he's like, yo, chill. Watch what we about to do here. You know what I'm saying? And then like they're doing sounds and shit. They're kind of starting to do the reunited stuff. And they're like, yo, we don't like this shit. He's like, nah, we take it to another level, yo. You know what I'm saying? So it was, I think he was in his mind trying to grow as a producer, and his group wasn't that interested in the sound that growing would give. I think that was a big part of it. I think that the bond between all the guys was being strained. And I think that he was in a place of, like, if you've read the RZA book and some other things, RZA was like, I was also burnt out. You know, like, it was, like, I had been, like, he would say stuff like, dudes was going out and buying cars, I was buying studio equipment. Dudes was going out and partying, I was in the lab. Like, you know,
right.
And then not only was I doing that, I'm doing business deals, I'm doing this. Like, I didn't experience that success the way everybody else got to experience that success. Right. So when Zara says the rebellious part, I felt like this was, instead of RZA going into that science and what we thought we were going to get with The Cure, I felt like this was him being like, you know what? I'm going to have some fun too. Like,
it's definitely a more fun record because he's playing into the Bobby Digital, you know, alter ego, which a lot of artists have done before. It's like, oh, I'm going to, you know, say all the wild shit that I wouldn't necessarily stand behind. It's a character. So I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah. And I felt like this was his like rebellion in the sense of like, nah, bro, like I'm going to do music the way that like I want to do it. Like these dudes, fuck them. Then they don't got to be involved in this shit. Like I'll just do it this way. And I'm going to link up with my young homies that I'm hanging out with right now, the Killer Armies and the Black Knights and my new artists. But I feel like they represented more than just his new artist. I felt like they represented like the replacement of like who I'm hanging out with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like, all right, cool. We gonna be in the lab and we gonna do this and we gonna have fun. You know what I'm saying? And that was my take on like how this record got kind of put together a little bit.
It's interesting because two things can be true where philosophically there's nothing necessarily wrong with wanting to break out of the box of the sound that you've been doing. And like, again, it also raises questions that we sometimes bring up when we do these. And I talk about all the time with anybody who I talk about music with for more than like an hour. It's like, how much immaculate classic does any human being owe us? Like if you've done like one classic album or two classics or three, or in the case of RZA, you know, like like at what point, like at 5, you know, like at what point do we have to be like, hey, maybe like we should just shut the fuck up because this guy has already contributed more than most people ever will, including the people on the planet who are trying to do the type of shit that he's doing.
Very true.
So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I wasn't that bought in the Wu-Tang, you know, stable of the sound and the aesthetic at the time. But I think while that can be applauded, I don't know if the execution necessarily was done in the best way, even though you got to be like, yo, you got to give this guy credit for trying. And truth be told, we're going to talk about this. You know, the whole thing was like digital orchestration, and I'm, you know, like doing. There's a lot of fucking samples on this record. Like, So it's interesting.
One other note that I would throw is RZA, and to me, this album and the second Bobby Digital album, they sit in an interesting place in because RZA at the time, RZA's my favorite rapper and my favorite producer. He's my favorite everything at the time. Like I was a huge RZA fan, like huge. So like this album and the second Bobby Digital, and I would even extend it a little bit to the Birth of a Prince record. That era, that 3-album run or whatever, is a certain sound to me from RZA before it even goes in another place after that. Right. And what I get from it is, you know, RZA, if you look at like what he's done post all of this stuff, RZA, one thing that I think he wants is to be taken seriously as a musician.
Yes.
I think RZA doesn't want, I'm not just a hip hop artist. I'm not just a producer. I'm doing finger quotes here, but this can be the kiss of death for a lot of these guys. Because I think,
It's unfair because they're kind of like pushing up against what is now, by 2024 standards, a really outdated way of looking at things. Where it's like, we've seen, it's like, yo, it's not just guys who are like, oh, you just like, somebody's grandpa being like, oh, that's not music. You're just taking this and then you put through that. And it's like, you do it. You try that if you think it's that easy. Not everybody can do this. This is a skill, just as like playing piano or playing the drums is like, that is a skill. Having an ear and knowing how to loop things up and how to arrange things is a skill. But especially at that time, I could see how a guy like RZA was like, I got to prove that I'm more than just a novelty, more than just this thing. Because even in the 90s, people were saying, oh, hip hop's not going to last. Look,
like,
this is just
RZA,
a fad.
I don't think
that's true.
Again, these are all my opinions, Czar's opinions, Czar's opinions. But I don't think RZA particularly is that interested in being compared to DJ Premier and being compared to Pete Rock. RZA wants to be compared to Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones, yeah.
RZA wants to be
and Quentin Tarantino.
RZA wants to be compared to Isaac Hayes. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he looks at what he does in that way versus it being like, and then if you look at hip hop, like there's the DJ Premiers and the Pete Rocks and the Large Professors, and the way that there's a synergy in the way that the beats get made. And I think there was always like all RZA does is loop up shit. You know what I'm saying? Like we're kind of doing this, or these producers do these other things. Because like if you talk to like a lot of like snobby hip hop producer fans, like they're not considering, like if they'll talk about Dilla, and if you're like, yo, like, well, RZA, like with Dilla, like, do you know the things that Dilla does with a beat, like? RZA doesn't do those things. He just loops things up. Like I've heard those kind of like takes.
Sure.
So I feel like RZA's respect in a production, even for the great albums that he produced and put together, from an enthusiast standpoint, I don't think he gets that, or even got it like up until the turn. I don't think he really got that. So
I think he did. The perspectives, and it could be a regional thing too, but I think he at least from in the directions I was in, I think he was considered like a top producer in the real hip hop realm, right? But the thing is that like this dude.
Well, let me ask you right quick. I'm sorry. When you said real hip hop realm, I want to put a delineation, because I was saying like producer snob realm, which I think is different than the real hip hop realm.
I mean, listen, but if I'm thinking like the producers that are we all know the producers that are mentioned from the 90s, right? The DJ Premier's, Pete Rock, Large Professor, whatever the case is. I throw in DJ Muggs and, a few others, right?
Yes.
So, like, I feel like RZA was held pretty high regard, like...
I would agree to that.
With the Wu-Tang albums, that string of albums, right?
Yeah,
and what he did with it. But the thing is that, which kind of actually gives us, like, little clues of what he was aspiring to do, is that the records he put together was more than just the beats. DJ Premier being my favorite, like, producer, like... he's a beatsmith. He's an excellent beatsmith, right?
RZA was making songs.
Right. So Premier, though, has never arranged an album as well as a RZA would do, right? Or compose things and make things happen. So when you see the way that he put together a 36, even with the little interludes and sound bits and this and that and the clips from the movies, like, to me, that shows that he wants to show more than just, I can make a beat or be a beatsmith. I can put things together. I can arrange. I can compose. So going into that digital album, that was his first attempt. Now, I also, and I'm coming in defense of RZA, but in '98 there weren't an array of instrumental tools other than actual instruments and some synths here and there and whatever. Today we got plugins. We got all types of stuff that can make it sound like it was sampled. Right. So I feel like if that stuff did exist back then, maybe he would have had a different approach than just.
Of course.
And I don't want to go too deep, because some of the songs, I will point out some of the things that that kind of bother me with that. But we're talking about 1998. And, it was something new. So I give him props and credit. Where I mentioned the word disappointment, I need to make sure that I did have some enjoyment also. It was back and forth. But ultimately, I thought that the record was deserving to be existing, and for a reason. And looking back, how many years have gone by now? It's a pillar. It's something to go back to and re-listening to it, because I knew we were going to do this, was like, okay, yeah, like maybe I've changed. My ears have changed,
Right.
and so I've accepted a little bit more than probably my young, 18-year-old version of me, heard. So, but yeah, RZA was trying to score and compose, man. He wasn't trying to be Dilla or produce or Premier. To your words there, like he definitely wasn't. So I agree with that. His mind was somewhere else. He's trying to be a master producer, homie.
I think too, where he fucked up is that it's such a stark contrast to the previous catalog that
absolutely
it just throws you way to the right. Yeah. Which, like if you go through the previous albums, they all sound very different, but they all had the synergy of like a signature.
They're in the same neighborhood.
They're in the same neighborhood. And this does still carry the signature, but it's so to the right that you're like,
yeah. Well, you have to be cognizant of your audience too. You're not just creating in a bubble. And like, if there's a world where he put this out as Bobby Digital and didn't have the word RZA on it anywhere, and like just released it as an alter ego, we might all be talking about this and thinking about it in a different way. But no matter how you like slice it, he did something that we could say Bobby Digital, and that instantly conjures something for anybody who like cares about this shit. You could say, oh yeah, he pulled the Bobby Digital. Okay, like that's going to be like, all right, you're going to cock your head a little bit. Oh, so this is some different shit, because he did something different. And you got to give credit. We always do these. I always find it important to say, like, we're not shitting on anybody. There's reverence for everybody who does these things. And I know, like, I don't know the total summation of what your guys' opinion is on this, but like I think we'll get into it. But this isn't a RZA bashing.
You said something that really just hit me. With the way that the underground was about to go and everything, because this is like right when we're getting into that underground phase that was going to come,
and all that.
All that stuff. Yeah. Could you imagine if this album was the same album, let's assume, but it's not RZA at all? It's new rapper Jonathan, and
I fucking love new rapper Jonathan.
Yeah, and it just comes out on Stretch and Bobbito and like whatever, and it's just a whole different sound of like, because I could see a scenario where somebody would be like, yo, this new shit is completely different, and like, like we're fucking with this rapper. I feel like there's a whole like, because it was him and you're supposed to give us this magnum opus, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that, not that it makes the album better or worse, but I just feel like the stigma of, bro, this is not what you're supposed to give us. Like, the fuck are you doing? I feel like that did play in.
Right. Okay, so we're going to talk in the intro for 2 hours if you don't know.
No, but look, this was a good convo.
Yeah, no, it was a good one. All right, good night, everybody. No, just kidding. Album was certified gold in February of 1999, so, it wasn't a complete, like, drop in the bucket there. But critically, the record got 3.5 mics in the source. Rolling Stone gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Entertainment Weekly gave it a B. Pitchfork gave it a 2.9 out of 10. So, kinder overall reviews aside from that Pitchfork one that I would have thought. But what we always like to do before we start is, what is your, using the Source 5 mic scale, what is your current rating of the album, and what would you have ranked it back then? So, Zar, why don't we start with you? Where does this fall on the 5 mic scale to you?
All right, so shock value when I first heard it.
Yeah.
Man, I think I was in my feelings, so I probably would have gave it my first listen, probably a 2.5. This is out of 5 though, not 10. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
we know. Yeah.
So right down the middle. But I would say a 3. And then you ask right now.
Yeah, and it's currently today.
At its current today, I will give it a 3.5. Yeah, yeah. I feel like that equates to what, a 7 out of 10. I think that's a fair assessment of a grade, at least from my opinion. Which means it's good. Like, there are some gems on there. In my opinion. But there's some other areas that
There's some other things on there.
Which is why we have Making Illmatic.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, this was definitely, I would almost give it a not applicable for when it came out, because I was not super deep into Wu-Tang, and then I heard the record. I was like, well, this isn't really checking any boxes for me, but like, I would say probably back then I would have ranked it as like a 2 or maybe a 2.5. Today, in revisiting it and spending more time with it, I would say probably it's about a 2.5 for me. There's things that I like about it and things that, for me, I can appreciate, again, the philosophy behind it, and all of the things that we just said are true. But I also think at the same time, it misses the mark in a lot of ways. So, but I do believe that through what we're about to do to this record, it very well could improve greatly. MidaZ, what's your mic score?
I would have said back then, I would have lined up with the source, and I would have said 3.5 back then. If you were to ask me 10 years later, and this is beyond 10 years later that we're talking about this, obviously. So if you'd ask me 10 years later, I probably would have higher rated the high points, but then also been more critical of the fact that there are so many songs on there. So I don't know what that equates to on a mic scale, but I probably would have like, man, there's way too many songs in here. And then also the songs I like, I really like. You know what I'm saying? And it would have been like more of that. But yeah, I would say back then it would have been between a 3 and a 3.5, probably leaning 3.5 for me.
Well, we're going to trim this thing down and see if we can get it down to 10. It's a 3-person vote, so it takes 2 to cut or 2 to keep. We'll go through each song, and if we get to the end of it and we have not reached 10, we will do a lightning round. So let's get into it. These are, for the most part, with I think one exception, these are all produced by RZA. So that goes
two exceptions.
Saying. Or 2 exceptions. Okay. Yep, you're right. 2 exceptions. I forgot who I was doing this with. Both of their hands instantly went up, and they were like, no, sir, please.
Get it right, bro.
Get it right, bro. What the fuck? All right, so we'll get into it. The first track is the intro, and
Bobby Digital.
I mean, it definitely lets you know what you're maybe going to be getting on the record, there, or at least where its ambitions are,
I was so used to a Wu-Tang album starting with some Kung Fu.
Right.
Or, because they didn't all start with Kung Fu, but they all started with some like sample or something, Yeah.
Yeah, thinking like Cuban Links. It was like, some drug lord, some
yeah, just there were
something
epic beginnings to Wu-Tang albums, know?
Yeah.
And I was like, the fuck is going on
here? It sounds like it has aspirations of being epic, the strings and things. But I mean, this is a cut for me. This is like,
it's definitely a cut.
Yeah, it's
super cuts.
But like, I was so confused. I mean, imagine, bro, like being Zara. He doesn't have to imagine. He was there, but like we got it, and we were like,
and
you're like,
that's how you start the record, right? That
like what? Nah.
That's a super cut for me, bro.
Yeah.
Cheap haircut. It's a super cut. All right, we're going to move into track number 2. The song is B.O.B.B.Y. B.O.B.B.Y.
Yeah.
I'm scared to do this album with you guys because I actually don't know where your allegiances are going to lie. Because there's some stuff that I went in revisiting that I was like, okay, I think I definitely know how I feel about some of these. And then I'm like, I have no idea if I can forecast what MidaZ and Zara are actually going to think about this.
You probably can't, bro, because it's all over the place. Look, let me jump this. I'll jump this one off. Okay, and this is what makes this album so crazy to do is that I do have like all over the spectrum feelings about it. Like I feel the same way you feel about it, and then I also feel a different way about it. Like about a lot of stuff on this shit. This joint, in itself, like I hated the hook when I first heard this. I hated it. I was like, I hate this.
It is a bad hook. It's a bad hook.
Yeah, I hated it. I was just like, yo, I hate this hook, bro. B.O.B.B.Y. I was like, yo, this is terrible, yo. Like, I hate it. I love the raps. And to be clear, I love the raps on most of the album. I thought RZA was being like rap. I mean, he wasn't doing that scientific RZA that I wanted to get, but just as far as him being like the B-boy MC, just being an MC, like RZA's rapping his ass off on the whole album. Some of these hooks, this hook was, the beat it threw me so to the left for a Wu-Tang song. I was like, what the fuck is this beat? With that being said, I have grown to love the beat, right? Like over the years, the beat is I get a nostalgic, like, you know, like I remember this joint, you know what I'm saying? To this beat. Man, I would say that this is I'm actually going to cut this song.
See, I had no idea what you were going to say right now.
I'm actually going to cut it, and I'm primarily going to cut it just because I really hate the hook on this song. Like, I really, really hate it. It does give me nostalgic vibes, but I think that if you put together a 10-track album of this album without that song, you probably get a really decent album out of it. So I'm going to cut it.
Czar?
Well, I mean, it's already been decided. But what I'll say is this.
Well, it's not been decided because there's still you two.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of feel I know where Shah's gonna go. Maybe I don't. Maybe the same as you said. But so first of all, a lot of the things you said, we're eye to eye on. What really bothered me was how long the song was.
The song's also long as shit.
It's very long.
Like five
it's
something.
Very long.
Yeah. So I wish that this song was actually what the intro was, but like cut like down. Let's say he did the whack ass hook in the intro though. Right?
Yeah, right.
I know sometimes they'll do like songs or tracks on albums or interludes where you could tell they cut and did a whole song, but they're just giving you a fade up on some of it and then a fade out. Like,
right.
if you felt like you were just doing a drive by on this song and you're like just hearing, it's like, okay, like this is different. Okay. This is yeah.
I would accept it too, but I am leaning towards removing it because of how long it is, and we're talking about making it Illmatic. But just like you, MidaZ, I did actually grow to like the beat. Now, what's funny about the hook is I think it's horrible too, but I actually like this horrible hook.
Okay, the hook does what it's supposed to do, though, right?
Right? Yeah. I think because it does set a foundation. It kind of sets the whole mood of digital.
It does. I agree with that.
You know, like it starts that. So that's why I wish it was just like this drive, as Sean was saying, like you just driving by catching it, like type of intro or something I just catch, and then let's get started with the album. But it's not that. So I have to cut it. So
it's a cut for me as well. I have no love for this beat. I think that, nor do I have love for the hook. So I mean, that's already like 2 out of 3 components are lacking. You know, I love the ad-lib at the beginning that we talked about earlier where he's kind of giving the mission statement. I almost wish you could just take that and put that on the next song. Like that, to me, would be amazing to have like, the ultimate beats and breaks, you know, looping that shit for 1,000 years and then hop into the next one. Because, I mean, I think when people talk about keyboard beats, that's used as like a pejorative term. And a lot of times people... You know, we're talking about Swizz Beatz or the Neptunes because those were the guys who really rode on the coattails of keyboard beats. But to me, this sounds like a keyboard beat. Like this to me is just like, again, we understand what he was trying to do coming from what he had done before and how he was trying to innovate. But it's like, you got to either get better sounds or get better at playing the keyboard if you're going to, you know, step into that arena. Peace to Gangstar. But I mean,
I agree, man. Like I said before, I feel like the lack of sounds back then, other than your synthesizers, we probably had like the Triton and like some sort of Roland and a couple of them out there. So it was difficult to whatever. So
that's bullshit. The 70s existed before the 90s. Like there's amazing synthesizer sounds that exist in the world.
Absolutely right. So maybe it's just RZA's choice of sound.
Well, from a digital standpoint, those things didn't exist the same way. Like they existed in actual
analog
instruments. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, actually, that brought up a good point which is one of the things that I didn't like about the album was the fact that, when you have the sounds of the 60s, 70s, or whatever, or even the 80s, even
and today,
and today, that's funny because you can have that sound today. You can have that analog sound or that gritty or vinyl sound or whatever the case was, but that's not what Bobby was trying to do. So. Like, he didn't want that. He wanted it to sound digital, right?
Yeah, that was the other thing, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He wanted it to sound like the future, which was crazy.
Yeah,
right.
Because
it was like...
today, you can make heavy digital sounding stuff, but add grit or add, texture,
right?
Right.
He wanted it to sound like the future. Like, yo, this is all electronic.
Right.
That was his thing. But yeah, no, this was... The length of the song is funny, though, because the length of the song is instrumental.
Yeah, it's like a minute and a half of just the beat.
It's like 2 minutes of the beat.
Yeah,
it's like you're sitting in the car and you look at your friend like, should we leave? Like, were we supposed to hear this? Like, I know this is our car and we're in the middle of driving, so we're like, maybe we should. I feel like we're not supposed to be here.
a minute or so is beat, but another minute is just going D-I-G-I.
Yeah.
T-A-L. You're like, yo, what is happening for the last 2.5 minutes of this song? So, I'm gonna cut it.
It's a unanimous cut. We're moving on to track number 3. The song is called Unspoken Word. All right, so I know it would have flown in the face of what the album is supposed to be because this is kind of like not sounding like all the things we just said. But to me, this is how you start the album. This is
how you start the album.
Yeah, it's not totally. It doesn't sound like it's an outtake from any of the past Wu-Tang records either. It has its own sound. But to me, this is, I'm going to become like a broken record as we go through this, but I need more of these and less of those that we just did before.
Right,
so it's a keep for me.
Yeah.
Keep.
Yeah.
Like,
keep. You gotta start the album that way. Like, what the fuck were we doing?
Yeah. The energy was good, which RZA keeps good energy, regardless of the songs. He keeps good energy throughout the record. And as MidaZ said earlier, he be rapping his ass off on his record for sure. But this song was the first song that I was like, all right, yeah, this is it. Like, I'm feeling this. And it wasn't as digital. But it is what it is. But I really enjoyed that song. So it's a must to keep for me.
You know what's funny about this, though? This whole album does... it does sound like a time capsule. Like, it really does. Like, there's no other music that sounds like this music. So, like, when you hear this music, you're like, that Bobby Digi. Like, there's no evidence of this music elsewhere in music. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
As soon as I hear, like, the way this is put, like, as soon as I hear that beat, I'm like...
And I wonder if no one wants to ever try to...
Yeah.
Let it stands on its own. Like, that's for
It's
sure.
its own thing.
Yeah. It might be. All right, we're going to move on to track number 4. The track is called Slow Grind African. Well,
I have no idea what the point of these shits is at all. Yeah, I never did. So you have any clue what the fuck was the point of these shits?
I mean, he's trying to compose. He's trying to, make it more of an experience, but it was a no-go for me, bro.
It doesn't even match, like... I mean, you know what, though? All right.
Because he's got, like, these chicks, like, that are, like, say,
But you know what, though? Okay, as I'm saying, I don't know what the point of it is.
I know what the point of it is. Yeah, I mean, like, I think in the same way that he's renouncing, I'm not just looping breaks. Also, I'm not just hip-hop. I'm not just New York. I'm not just Staten Island. I'm global. Like, this is, like, a composer giving a symposium, and, like, I have women all over the world who,
Yeah.
Who want to get down with Bobby.
Too?
Yeah.
We're at a disadvantage because we're listening to this is a soundtrack.
Right.
We're at a disadvantage because we never saw the movie.
That's true too.
That's a very generous take that you're giving him.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm saying we're at a disadvantage because, like, for instance, when I say I don't know what the point of that is, I don't know. There could have been some tie-in to that in the movie. That would have been like, even though it sucks, this is the reason that it exists. But I don't know the reason it exists because I never saw the movie.
I think he was trying to do a theme in his interludes because we'll see soon. But the other ones are similar. They're just different, nationalities or different languages.
Right, that's what I was saying. Right? Maybe there's a tie-in to the movie in some kind of way. Like maybe there's some girls, or maybe they're drug trafficker bitches or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's a miss for me.
I don't hear like, oh, I'm hearing a scene in a movie because it doesn't even make sense. Like I have the capacity to like hear a scene from a movie I've never seen and just hear it. And if you played it for me, I'd be like, oh, okay, this is clearly a scene in a movie. I can kind of tell what's happening. I don't know what the fuck is happening in these.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. It's cut.
Yeah. We're cutting it. We're moving on to track 5. This is one of the aforementioned songs produced by someone who's not RZA. This was produced by King Tech. This is Airwaves.
So this song was just a plug-in. Had nothing to do with Bobby Digital
at all. It
was Sway and Tech. He doing joints in collaboration with them, and he probably just decided. And it's only like a minute and a half. I don't know. It's a very short joint, and it's more like an interlude to me, like in a sense where it's dope. It's dope as hell. But it's not Bobby Digital. Like I think it was just something he plugged into the album real quick. People do that. They'll take joints, and maybe plug just a segment of a song they did somewhere else and throw it in the mix and stuff like that, whatever. But it's one of the doper songs, but it's not digital, so I don't know. I was against the ropes of that.
I think he was in character, but the music wasn't in character, but he was in character. Because he was in the Bobby Digital character, I guess, rapping. But remember, this was the joint that was the beginning of the Wake Up Show song.
The anthem.
Yeah, the anthem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uber posse cut. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And he jumped it off, right? He jumped off the anthem, right? So I think it was just like, all right, I'll also use it on the album type of situation. But
I need more tracks.
I love the joint.
I need more songs on this album. Let me
there's not you don't have enough. Like, there's enough already. But I mean, all right, with the little stuff, all those details aside, I love the song. Like, so and
you keeping it or cutting it?
I feel like I have to keep it because of the record. Yeah. Just, if we're trying to do 10 tracks, right? So I'm gonna keep it.
I will also keep it.
Yeah. I just want to say I'm not trying to help RZA achieve the Bobby Digital vision in doing these. I'm trying to get my picks for the best version of the songs that are here. So even though, like this, and there are other songs later that I think also deviate a little bit from the Bobby Digital motif, but yeah, this is good. Again, this is more of what I want. The beat's dope. RZA does his thing, so it's a keep for me.
I love the hook on this too. What you would consider the hook too. I just like the vibe of that shit. That shit is fire. So yeah.
Well, and it's very Wu-Tangish in a sense.
It is
super Wu-Tangish. Yeah,
super Wu-Tangish.
We're gonna move on to track number 6, featuring Angel Cake. This is Love Jones.
Look, that song was really divisive to me back then. Back then, it was very divisive to me because I was used to my Wu-Tang girl songs being Ice Cream and Cam A. Right? And like, I was like, what is, so much of this was like, what was happening? I don't understand what's happening. It's become one of my favorite songs on the album. I think that beat is crazy, actually. And even when you were playing it, like, again, I told you guys, I didn't re-listen to the album before this. As you were playing it just now, Sean, I was like, this beat's crazy. Like, what are we doing? Like, this shit is kind of wild. Like, he's got a lot, there's a lot going on in this beat, and it all sits real good. Like, and I remember I never really loved the hook on it, and that was part of my divisiveness from back in the day. But there's no way I would cut this song from the album. And now, even like I think the beat, I was like, damn, I should write a verse to this shit. It's just kind of hard. So keep for me.
Yeah, it commits like the cardinal sin that we were all committed to in the 90s of, it's the song with the girl singing on the hook, and it's leaning too far into what could be like R&B territory, even though it's not I don't think it's like very polished. It's not like he got Faith Evans or, somebody to sing on it. I'm thinking like Tribe Stressed Out vibes where it's like, oh, or like Once Again, like similar era 96 where it's like, oh man, they're just, they're trying to cross over. If this were any other album from that time, I might be more prone to cut it. But with the RZA Razor, you know what I'm saying? This beat is crazy, and like it's a really dope vibe. Like, I'm not saying it's not the best version of this type of song that I've heard on these kinds of albums, but it's dope. I like it, so it's a keep for me.
I agree with both of y'all on the beat. That's one of the better beats on the album, for sure. But what RZA seems to, at least then, he seemed to me hit it out the park with chick songs, like when he produced them. So like, you think of the All I Need, All I Needs and all that stuff. You mentioned Cam A and all those songs, like RZA seemed to, but see, what's cool about this song is y'all didn't even talk about the lyrics. Even those few lyrics we just heard, to me was like, this, that was enjoyment to me. Like,
he went crazy.
He was in his chamber, he's like, maybe you want to take my main chick to the curb or whatever you were saying. Like he's going in.
He's not pandering. It doesn't feel like he's making a girl song like that. He's like, like selling out. Like, yeah.
Exactly. He's not making a girl song at the normal format. That made me appreciate the song more. And like, I like listening to him over the track. So the hook, whatever, but you know what I'm saying? But the beat, the RZA lyrics, it's a key for me.
This is the organization of it. There's a couple chick types, chick songs on this album.
Yeah.
One of the great chick songs of all time is on this album.
Oh,
but I digress.
It's very unorthodox. Yes.
I have to say, this is going a lot more smoothly and us on the same page than I thought it was going to be. We've gone through.
We didn't get into the meat and potatoes, though.
All right. I'm just making sure. Because I'm like, we all agreed on pretty much everything. This is the most boring episode of Making It Matter.
There's one song on here that when we hit it, and when I keep it, both of you guys are going to light me up. And the shitty part about this album is I know y'all are going to light me up because I know it's really not a great song. But I love it. So
all right, we'll cross that bridge and we'll see if we know when we get to it before we get to it. We're going to move to track number 7, N.Y.C. Everything featuring Method Man. I love this fucking song. I love this song. This is there's no way we can cut this song. This is an absolute keep for me. It's so great. The beat to me is I think the closest to delivering on the promise of like, okay, where it came from, kind of weird sounds that are, it's Digi. We got the Digi component. Method Man, I think, kills his verse.
Oh my God. It's one of the great Method Man verses of all time.
Yeah.
Which is interesting you say that.
Which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
Because Meth has a lot of great verses, especially feature verses. So, but man, I mean, we're going to go with the boring theme again. It absolutely, this track cannot be cut. To me, you just think of the title, like N.Y.C. Everything. So to me, that obviously is a draw to someone want to listen to a song called N.Y.C. Everything, right? And then you have Meth on the track. So that's another reason why you can't cut the song, because you have a top level Meth verse on there. Let's say RZA was whack. Like, all right, well, we got Meth to save the day, and then the beat, it's not like the ridiculous beat, but it's one of the most like hip hop bopping type beats that you can ride to like easy on this project. So like I had all pluses for me on this. You know what I'm saying? So it's a key for me.
This beat has. So we've done on this. We've done some LP stuff, right?
Ooh, LP.
And like, what album did we do?
We did Fantastic Damage. It's crazy that you're saying this because I had that thought when I listened to this. Like,
this beat is chaos,
right?
This is chaos, right? But for me, the difference in the chaos is that it's a little bit easier listening chaos than some of the chaos I got out of that Fantastic Damage album that we like. Some of that chaos is a little abrasive to me.
Yeah.
Right. This is chaos, but it's not so abrasive as chaos. Right. Like it still has a through line, I guess, a little bit. So to me, the memory that popped up when this song immediately came on, back when this joint dropped, Zara, I don't know if you remember, Sean, I don't know if you remember, but BET used to do, they had like a little commercial segment where they would highlight lyrics in between commercials on Rap City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those.
And this was one of the first that they did it for.
Oh, they
so
did?
Like it is in the span of when this was out, Rap City would go to commercial and then you would hear, hey,
yeah.
and then they would kick the Method Man verse and they had the dots going over the lyrics.
Like the bouncing ball. Like
the bouncing ball going over the lyrics. And it would be the Method Man verse. And the whole verse would run on BET. I just remember being like, yo, this shit is crazy. Like, they're just going to run the whole Meth verse. And I think Meth had the, I could be wrong, but I think Meth had the quotable in the source for this verse.
Oh, wow.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense, though.
He went crazy. The hook, the title being N.Y.C. everything. Now I see everything. Like just the acronym. I love this song. This is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a unanimous keep. We're going to move on to track number 8. It's Mantis featuring Master Killa and Takitha.
Oh, man. I had mixed feelings about this joint.
Sean, now we are getting into the meat and potatoes of this shit.
All
right. Because now, we are now getting into the mix heavy of the album. Like, we've listened to a few songs. So hearing this song to me was kind of a dip back down, from what I've heard, and maybe had a little bit of excitement on what to expect next. I'm hearing this as a person that made beats. I was very disappointed because this beat is very bland, and these piano stabs was like, okay, man, all right, that's enough. Like,
the piano stabs are the worst thing on the beat until the high-pitched Christmas ornament thing comes in, and then you're like, oh, wait, it gets worse?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. So, like, I just couldn't get past that. Master Killa is Master Killa. You can't have high hopes or low hopes. He's going to be Master Killa, in my opinion, which is I guess that's a compliment to him. He's very consistent with his wordplay and what he does. So, but to me, it wasn't enough for me to like say, let's keep this song. So, and the hook was very unconventional and whatever. So I could pass this joint. So I'm a pass on this. So
I gotta keep it. Look, I have no redeeming statements to say why I would keep it, other than the fact that it's just this album to me. Like, this is a representative of this album that I like, and it's a part of why I like it, and I could not tell you why I like it. I like everything Zara was saying. I'm like,
facts.
Yep.
Yeah.
And guess what? I like it.
Is this the song you were referring to earlier?
This is not the song that I'm referring to.
Holy shit. Okay.
But I don't know, bro. It's everything that I understand that the people who hate this album hate it for, and I like it. One thing I'll say though is that he does way too much with the letting things play like it's the greatest instrumental of all time. So like, even for somebody who likes it, it's like, yo, bro, like, it's not the best beat ever. Like, you might not want to let it run for like a minute and a half after it goes off. Like, keep it contained with the vocals so that you can throw people off and then be out. You know what I mean? But regardless, for me, it's a keep. I already know where we're going with this, but I just wanted to show it some love because I got love for this joint.
No, that's
can't
great.
Explain it.
I'm happy to give you that platform. And now I'm going to cut the song. Yeah, because this is just, I'm with Zara on all this. It's just too, the beat's bad. The beat's just bad. Like, it doesn't.
Okay, can I ask a question about the badness of the beat to both of you guys?
Yeah.
Right? All right. Because I'm not fighting that it's not a good beat. Let me be clear. there's just a charm that I can't explain for me.
Mm.
The RZA Guitar Center beat.
Wow.
That's a bad beat.
Well, yeah.
I think this beat is 10 times better than the Guitar Center beat.
But that doesn't take away.
On that though? No, it doesn't take away. I'm just wondering, like, if you were to tier these things.
I mean, 10 times zero is still zero.
Would you say? But would you say?
That's exactly my point. Yeah.
But would you say those beats are like this?
No, but they're both under zero. Just one is more negative than the other.
All right. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, if it's 10 below zero or 32 below zero, like, it's still cold, bro. Like, exactly. we don't have to do a debate about this, you know? Yeah. It's funny because, you know, there's things about this. You mentioned, like, the LP thing, and I'm a really big LP fan. And, like, you know, they're both similar in a lot of ways, that they're very dissonant. They have things that don't necessarily mesh well together. And in a lot of these, I think the best beats on this, like for the N.Y.C, everything that we just listened to, there's a little bit of soul. There's like literally sampled soul that's in there. It's tucked and it's covered. A lot of LP beats do that too, whether it's a break or something. LP covers it with really abrasive stabs and loud, aggressive synths. Yeah. On this record, RZA's doing the same thing, but he's covering it more with like little plinks and clinks and like, you know, like bells and things like that. And sometimes it works. Like on the last track, I think it did. This doesn't sound good. Like if you told me if it came out and it was revealed, like, actually, you know, I'm the RZA, and yes, I did produce the majority of the Bobby Digital album, but actually my 8-year-old niece produced this song. I don't think anybody's going to be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what are you talking about? Like the whole time, like we'd be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I can see that.
I can see that. That's a good point right there.
I love it. This will be the Make It Nomadic, by the way.
Man. How hard is it? Ding, 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 ding. Like over and over and over again. Over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like,
This will be the Make It Nomadic with the most songs that get cut that MidaZ kept. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
We'll see about that. We're going to move on to track number 9. It is Slow Grind French. I mean, let me tell you why these can't be scenes from a movie. There's only one person talking. It's not even dialogue, you know?
No. I wouldn't say that it was a scene from a movie. I would say there could be a tying element to the movie that I don't know about. I do, because it's like, I always think in albums, when you are an American artist and your audience is primarily American, kind of weird to throw like 5 different languages on there, because now there's a whole part of the album I'm never going to understand. I have no concept, and I'm not going to care enough to look up what they're saying. So I have no idea what's going on these skits whatsoever. So it's a cut. But
it's never been easier to translate skits on, you know, hip hop albums, and we're still not doing it for this one.
And we're still not doing it.
Yeah.
But can I give some to the fact that it's a perfect lead-in to the joint with Razcast that is on or not on this album?
It's on this album. It's
because it's
quite
it's
a few
the same,
tracks later. Yeah,
it's the same. Like it was his. I think he was trying to do the whole like, watch what we're gonna do in 6 tracks thing, but
I don't think he was trying to do that. But I think he was just trying to be like kind of like, I think it was mentioned before, global in a sense, with all the different, you know, languages that chicks and they're on it, make it sound extra exotic or something. But it was a no for me. It's funny, like if you saw my notes, the only thing I put for this was nah, N-A-H. That's all I put. Like I had nothing else. I have no love for it. Nothing, like, you know.
Yeah,
we need to get to the next joint.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Au revoir, Slow Grind French. We're going to move on to track number 10. It's Holocaust, Silkworm, featuring Doc Doom, Ghostface Killah, Ms. Roxy, and War Cloud. So I'm going to go first on this because there are quite a few in the midsection of this album that I have marked with a could go either way. And this is definitely one of them. The beat doesn't really do it for me, although I like the sort of the guitar, like the strumming, like very like like it's got the tremolo on it. But then the main part of the beat, or the next section, is it's a no-go for your boy. I'll say this, you know, if we talk about the new crew of talent that RZA was bringing in on these, they all do a very serviceable job, like filling, I think, the shoes that they were there to fill. They're clearly not like replacement members for Wu-Tang, but like for a lot of guys who were relatively unknown at the time, I don't think that like they fumble it. Maybe now I'm regretting going first because I really am like kind of. I'm gonna say I'm cutting this. It's a cut for me. It's a cut. Shout out to Ghostface. Great verse, but again, it's buried in a Holocaust sandwich. So, shout out to the Hall of Cost.
Yeah. So, I mean, I already know where MidaZ is going, where he's at with this one. So sorry, Sean. This is gonna definitely be a keeper. But I'll let MidaZ like do his own context. But to me, I agree with the beat. It's not that amazing. It's very simple. And in fact, as I was just listening there, what's hilarious is like just listening to just now, just that little bit while Holocaust is rapping, I actually started paying attention to the elements behind the beat, and I was like, they're kind of whack. They're whack. But what's hilarious is that was the first time I did that. So like as many times as I've heard it, because I've heard this song more times than most of the songs on this album, because it would be like the only song I would listen to out of a playlist, you know what I'm saying, from that record. It's one of the 3 or 4 that I've listened to over the years without listening to the whole album, right? I love the song. And Holocaust kills it. Like he has the best verse in my opinion. Ghost is on it, of course, so that's a plus. Then, whatever. And this is one of the singing type hooks I actually tolerate pretty, Bobby did it all. Like that part of the beat to me, I love. So you mentioned the little guitar, like tremolo joint, like that's cool. But that weird stuff before that, I don't know, whatever. But bottom line is, to me, this is a song that cannot be removed from this album. If you're making it Illmatic, it has to be on this album of Bobby Digital in stereo. Holocaust ripped it. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree. Look, man, when I first heard this song, I was like, who the fuck is Holocaust? He murdered this. I remember being in high school, yeah, or wherever I was at. I remember when it came out. I don't remember. Yeah, it was my first year of high school, I think. I remember hearing this song and being like, the conversation amongst friends was like, did you hear that? Did you hear the RZA album? Yeah. Yo, did you hear the one dude in the middle of the album that kicked that? We were quoting the shit out of this verse. We were like, this dude went crazy. Threw us into a spiral of trying to find, this is his first appearance. So like, no one ever heard this guy. And then he just came out the gate, murdered it so crazy that they named the song after him. They do the cardinal fail job that I hate in music, where you have a parenthesis subtitle I hate subtitles in songs. But I feel
maybe
like the
he
song
used
was
to
probably...
go by Silkworm as well, and he was trying to decide like what. So look, I'll figure it out like, after the album comes out.
Well, I feel like the song was called Silkworm.
Yeah,
and then when his verse got laid, it was like, nah, we're calling this Holocaust.
And everybody was probably like, yo, play the Holocaust joint, play the Holocaust.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's probably what took place.
Probably.
So this, while Zar was talking, I was listening, and you know what hit me on this? This song does the thing where the beat is not great, even to me. But there's something sometimes where the beat is not great, but the marriage of the beat and the voices makes the song dope. I think as an instrumental, this would not be an instrumental I would listen to.
Yeah.
Right? But as a song, Ghostface sounds great on this beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, they sound, Holocaust verse makes the beat sound better. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like the element of where people always say like the voice is the other instrument on the beat. This gets that a lot. Like these voices heighten the beat. And I could totally see a scenario from a rapper standpoint where I'm in the studio with 3 or 4 other MCs and this is the background noise and we're coming up with crazy lyrics. Like I could see that, you know what I'm saying? Cause it kind of feeds into that a bit. With that being said, super keep to me. To me, this is one of the hallmark joints on the record. The video was crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
RZA's on the throne and in the middle of the club. Kind of. That they were
don't think
brought
too hard
to.
about it. Yeah.
That they were brought to in a helicopter. Or
It makes more
I
sense. It makes more sense if you've seen the whole movie. You got to give. We have to.
Digital. But I love this joint. So
I'm gonna just say real quick. Holocaust knew this was his moment because he was like, I don't know how long it take him to write the verse, whatever. But in my head, it felt like he crafted, like his head hurt to make sure that this was the greatest verse he ever spit ever. And it was just because this platform, this is RZA's, this is a platform that RZA gave him, right? Right, a new MC to the world. Well, I'm sure to their circle, he's not new, but to us as fans. So he had to murder it. He had to.
We were trying to recruit, like me and my friends were trying to recruit him into Wu-Tang. We was like, yo, he needs to be a clan member. like he's
a ninth,
amazing
10th member.
Yo,
I remember those pamphlets you guys used to pass out. I remember that. Yeah.
I just was like, I know that verse word for word all the way through. That verse is amazing. You know what I'm saying? And he probably had, the thing about Holocaust is that he probably had maybe 5 or 6 more of those type of verses. And then it went all the way to the right. And he never rapped like that again. Which is tough.
That's how it crumbles sometimes. All right, we're gonna move on to track number 11, "Terrorist," featuring Doc Doom, Don Pacino, Killa Sin, and PR Terrorist.
I'll set it off with saying. So first of all, this beat to me, I love this beat actually, because it just rides well. Like this is a whip beat for me.
It rides well, yeah.
It rides well. And, if anybody caught, the bass line is, to me, a mimic of, like, Wu-Tang Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, like, the bass line from that. But, like, now, it's in the synth mode now. It's, like,
slower.
So it's like so it's a rider beat to me. And, the little sound, even the extra little, like, rim shots, like, I loved it, the beat. Don Pacino, and, this Killer Army, so it's dope to hear Killer Army because in Memphis, I was the only one that knew Killer Army, and I was recruiting people to Killer Army
with the pamphlet.
Right. It was a double-sided pamphlet. One side was Holocaust needs to be in Wu-Tang. The other one is, well, while you're here, have you checked out Killer Army?
No, I'm not even playing, not to take up extra, but I would take the Killer Army album. Like my brother, I make mad beats. 2 years younger than me in grades. I would go to a house party that was his friends, so they're all 2 years younger than me, right? Playing Memphis music, and I would stop the song in the middle of them chilling, and say, "Yo, y'all gotta hear this new Killer Army," and I throw it on. Everybody's like,
"Yeah,"
you know what I'm saying? And I had a couple people that asked me about it. I recruited a couple people, a couple kids, whatever. But that was me. So, and we didn't get a chance to hear Killa Sin.
Oh, Killa Sin.
And you know what I'm saying? All hail Killa Sin.
We might in the edit. These aren't the clips that we wind up playing. So
yeah. All hail Killa Sin.
That alone, I ain't cutting this song.
Yeah.
Killa Sin, yeah, he gotta get all the love he can get. You know what I'm saying?
He's got a little verse.
Yeah.
It hurts.
And
it hurts.
And it's, you know what? And from a technical standpoint, the song was mixed horribly. Because it sounded like
it's so crazy.
It sounded like he's like this on the mic, rapping.
Okay, so check it out, Zar. Did you hear, even from the clip that Sean just played, Doc Doom comes in, and he came in low. So my assumption with this joint is that one mic, everybody in the room, and they were walking up to the mic. That's my guess, because there's several, like, in the beginning, and they get louder. So this is my take on this. I feel like this was a vibe out night at the RZA lab. This beat, which is a rider beat, is playing.
Yeah.
And everybody's rapping, and RZA's like, yo, let's record that, yo. And everybody's, and what feeds that even more, and this is my nerdy Wu-Tang knowledge that no reason I should know this, there is a Japanese version of this song with a Holocaust verse on it.
Oh, wow.
And it's like 7 minutes long.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah. So there's And
I think that vision is perfect.
Killer Sin's verse is longer.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, it's just a longer version of the song or whatever like that. I guess by Japanese version, it was on the Japanese release, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, when they put it out overseas, they need to do bonus tracks. There's a whole science behind it, but yeah, they have to do.
Wait, what is the science? Please.
I think the science is, if I remember correctly, it's that in order to get the distributors, I'm gonna fuck this up, but I think it's to get the retailers to buy from the local ones rather than go through the U.S. They need to have like an incentive so that like I don't feel super confident about this. We'll fix this in post.
But I didn't even know there was a thing. I didn't know there was a thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to go to the mall, like not as much with hip hop albums, but for like a lot of rock albums. Like I used to go to the mall when I was a kid, and like sometimes get the import singles. So it'd be like this band has like an Australian single, and there's 2 B-sides on it that aren't, you wouldn't get this on the American. And like this shit's not cheap either because you're buying like an import. So like it's marked up. Like you might get a song. 3 songs on it, 3 songs on a single, and it's like $18. And I'd be like, well, it's pre-Napster, so it's like, I hope this is worth it.
That's good info for me, because I used to be like, why the fuck is there a Japanese version? Like, I don't even understand. Like, that's so random to me.
So if the song plays to the end, you recognize who's like, hey, yo, and then like the vocals cut out. So that's probably the rest of the
No, that is the rest of the
that is.
I have it. I'll send it to you, Zar.
Yeah, send that. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, okay, so the inclusion of a bonus track was developed to discourage Japanese consumers from buying on import, as they would get less content. There's an added bonus, but I guess I wonder why they would buy them from the American version. Like, I feel like that would be more expensive. They're sold by local retailers for around 30 to 60% more than they could be bought. Oh, okay. So they're more expensive to buy in Japan than the import would have been. So they would have to incentivize to get locals to buy their local versions.
Because it costs
interesting.
More. Okay.
Huh. So my vote was to keep it as well. I think it's great. I think about what would it have been like if the Bobby Digital concept was him going halfway on his journey and being like, I'm going to take the songs that I've produced that you love, but I'm going to give them a Digi, treatment. And I know that probably would not have been as creatively gratifying to him, because he's like, oh, you want me to, I'm not going to recycle all the shit I did in 1995 or 94 again. But like when I heard this, and I didn't remember this song super well, I was like, oh, this is crazy. I love it. Like it's got a very modern feel, but it doesn't step too far out of the pocket, like compositionally, because he already knew that bass line worked, and like the drums are different. So it also has a more like kind of tense and, sort of grabbing drum part. So yeah, this is a keep for me. This was a very easy keep.
Indeed.
He does that a lot too as a producer. Like he'll, when he has a thing that works throughout his career, he's brought it back a few times. Like there's a couple beats where he's like the same beat but slower, or did the same beat but
True.
So.
All right, we're gonna hop into track number 12. Then it's Bobby Did It, Spanish Fly, featuring Ghostface Killah, Islord, Jamie Summers, and Timbo King.
Bobby did it.
What do you think was going on in the perspective of RZA, of like having a section of the album that is so dense in the posse cuts? Like he's holding it down so much solo in the beginning and kind of towards the end, although there's features, but like he really stacked the features in the middle of the record.
I think he probably tried to establish his solo-ness or his diginess in the first few songs, and then once he's established his once he's established the theme and everything, like he was like, all right, it's time to bring it's time to bring the homies in and do this and do that. But I don't know the whole science, but I would think that most artists aren't going to really start with posse cuts in the beginning of the album, right? So I guess he wanted to kind of have it like, all right, the middle section that's for the homies right there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I can't compare it to like The Chronic, because I felt like almost every song was a posse song, except for like Let Me Ride or a few other joints. But I think that was just his time to give shine to his homies. So
yeah, my guess is you get most of the RZA solo songs. He started to work on this album Dolo, and then in LA, everybody comes to the studio. Let me play you these new joints that I've been working on, and then for 4 days they just made a bunch of songs, and a bunch of them just end up on the album. Is my guess about kind of how that plays. I totally forgot about that Islord verse. Islord, shout out Islord. I know Islord. That's why I was texting with Islord like maybe 2-3 weeks ago. What's interesting about this Islord verse? Islord never rhymes. He just don't rhyme. It's almost like, shout out to my boy Jay Cross. One of our jokes is that Islord don't ever rhyme. It's rhymeless rapping. It's hilarious. Like I was listening to that clip and I'm like, maybe it sounds like he's rhyming, but he's definitely not rhyming. You know what I'm saying? But in the essence of keeping it moving, this song is a lot like the last one.
Yeah,
they're kind of two sides of the same coin, and I like this song too. I just think it's a vibe. Both of those songs just ride. So for me, it rides and showcases the new breed of the Wu, and I like it. It's keep for me. Shout out to the hook.
So, what number song is this on the album?
12.
Number 12.
Yes.
All right, we got 21 total. How many we kept so far?
We kept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So I'm gonna cut it then, because like I can go either way with this one. Because kind of actually to your point,
this one has Ghostface though.
I know.
Forgot about that.
That's the only thing that really hurts me. But it's actually, if that Ghostface verse wasn't there, I would completely be like,
okay,
I'm cutting the song. But I can go either way. But like you mentioned, this song is a rider song, just like Terrorist, right? And so to me, all right, well, I'll keep Terrorist. I'm keeping Terrorist.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm cool.
And we still got some songs to go. I don't know what's gonna happen. So I'm putting my weight on not keeping it. Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so I was kind of touch or go with this as well. I had it in the maybe pile. But I'm gonna say I will cut it because it does have a lot of similarities to a lot of the two. If you look at this 3-song stretch, I wasn't really asking why RZA is collaborating with people. I'm just saying if you look at these 3 songs back to back, there's 12 rappers in 3 songs. It's a lot.
I didn't even think about that.
It's a lot of rappers. It's 12 vocalists because there's some, like hook singers as well. So it's just a lot. And I feel like maybe in just carving out some more space to make sure that we remember this is a RZA album, I would lose this one because it's also not as good to me as the other 2 that just preceded it. So it's the weaker of the 3. I don't have a problem with it, but in the name of editing, I'm going to cut it down. So we will cut it. We're going to move on to track number 13. It's Handwriting on the Wall featuring Razzcast.
Raz goes crazy on that verse.
He does.
He goes crazy. RZA has like 6 bars? He doesn't barely... he doesn't barely rap on it at all.
I mean, it's a very short
right
song.
Quick question, Zar. Does RZA rap on Terrorist?
That's
I don't think we know that. I don't think RZA's on Terrorist.
I don't think he's I think it's just just the homies.
So to Sean's point, like he's not even on Terrorist at all. He's like, I'm not even jumping on that song.
It's funny because if it was for time purposes, there's so many songs that like had the 2-minute, 3-minute instrumental outros. Like if we had just cut those, maybe there would have been room for the RZA verse.
Yeah.
Hey, serious. I thought I could cut this song. I didn't go to it very much. And I'm cutting it more from the perspective of like, I just think in 10 songs, you kind of just don't need it. It's not very long. It's Razzcast verse is dope, but maybe if we got a full song out of it and RZA actually did something, maybe, but this one's a cut for me.
I'm going with you on that one. I'm gonna double up on that. The rap was cool, of course, it's Razzcast. The verse was dope, but I don't know. It wasn't anything there for me otherwise. Random Razzcast verse. I don't think it's a necessity. Being, we're trying to make a solid Bobby Digital album. So, and I don't care for the synths. you know, the beat or whatever it is. I don't care for it, so I'm good. Yeah, I can pass on that.
This is really dope. It just doesn't make sense on the album to me. It's a real head scratcher, and you can kind of paint the picture and connect the dots, being like, okay, he was recording in LA, he was branching out, Razcast was doing his thing out there. I'm sure they linked and probably worked on a bunch of material around this time, but yeah, it just doesn't make sense on a 10-song album. It's a puzzling, interesting type song.
Yeah.
But not
Yeah,
bad.
for
Peace to Razcast, also one of the only people who was a no-show on the questions back in the pandemic days. Set it up, promoted it with a flyer. I think he got double booked and confused. But one day we will reconnect, Razcast.
I guess.
All right. We're going to move on to track number 14, produced by Inspector Deck. It's Kiss of a Black Widow featuring Old Dirty Bastard. This is
super cute.
Super cute.
Come on, man.
Ain't nothing about this song I don't like.
Oh, man. Yo, the Portishead sample, just Dirt and RZA, being Dirt and RZA, like...
Very woo-ish. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's, to me, this is the first time on the whole album that you hear what I consider to be RZA and not Bobby. Like, to me, that sound like Dirty and RZA.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Facts.
Like, doing anything. Like,
Deck on the beat.
On the beat. Oh, my God.
Deck,
crazy.
Sleeping on Deck,
had,
man. That guy
97, 98. There were like 5 or 6 Deck beats that are like
around the way,
Yeah. So fuck. Yeah,
you know what's crazy too?
Crazy.
It's not this song in particular, but so many times in listening to this record, a lot of the ones were like RZA is just like killing it, on the solo tip. I really had that thought, like, man, he really is ODB's cousin. Like you can hear in that delivery, like when the spotlight is like solely on him on a lot of these songs. It's like they really, and I know RZA was also writing a lot of ODB stuff as well. So it's a sort of a two-way street, but it's sort of that crazy, you don't really know what's happening next. You're on like a roller coaster, and like also right before it like takes off, the guy who put you in the roller coaster is like, by the way, there's something kind of loose on this. So like you don't know what like cadence wise or lyric wise is about to come around the corner, but like it's super dope. This is a mega keep for me.
Yeah.
Super keep. Yeah, man.
We'll probably never do that album. So fat shout to the part 2 of this song, which is as phenomenal as part 1 is, which is the part 2 is Dirty Bastard by himself.
Yeah.
And it's tons of fun.
All right, we're going to move on to track number 15. Speaking of tons of fun, it's Slow Grind Italian. I feel like when we do albums like this that have songs like this, it just becomes a game of how many different ways can we say that we don't want to keep these things.
Why do you have 4 or 5 of these shits, bro? Get this shit out of here. It's just trash. Hate it.
All right, cut. Hated it. All right, number 16, My Lovin' is Digi featuring Force MDs and Ms. Roxy.
Yeah,
this sounds like a soundtrack song. This is like probably the most cinematic.
Does.
Yeah, I could hear it playing in the like credits. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I feel a little blaxploitation feel. Yeah,
totally.
Like which is kind of what the album cover kind of gives vibes for a little bit too, but in its own digital way. Like I love this song. The beat is dope. It's very epic in a sense. And cinematic. So it's a super go for me. It's one of the songs on there that I truly love on this album.
I used to hate this song. I used to hate it, but I know that I used to hate it because of how my ears were back then. Like I really like the song now. Like I've listened to the song a lot in the last maybe 7 or 8 years or whatever, but I never listened to it when I first was going through this record. I find it hilarious that we spend like the first minute of the song on the hook.
Yeah.
And it's a hilarious hook. And it's like for a minute. Fucking with my pussy, my money, and my ride, tuck my down inside my hoodie. It's just like for a minute. And then he comes in, RZA comes in mad abrasive. Like, he's just,
it's not even a mix thing. It's just like arrangement, like musical choice wise. If you're visualizing it, like she's singing and he literally pushes her over and knocks her on the floor and just starts rapping into the microphone she was singing.
That's what it sounds like.
It's hilarious, bro. But I it's a keep. I love it too.
Yeah, it's a key for me too. Again, I'm always going to err a little bit more on the less digi sounds, and this doesn't really sound super digi, like we said. So yeah, it's a keep for me. It's fun, and it's got cool like just vibe out of ride music like vibe as well. We're on to track number 17.
I have a disclaimer before track number 17. Very quick disclaimer. This is where the drama is going to commence because I'm going to just be up front before we get into this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 song run. I like all of these songs. And I've never said that before, but this is the part of the album that I'm very interested to hear all the divisiveness with, because this is it's my favorite part of the album.
Okay, let's go. Track 17, right. Domestic Violence featuring Jamie Summers and You God.
The way that comes back. This beat's crazy, bro.
Yo.
This beat's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to set this one off with saying that if there's any song that I personally would be like, hey, you heard that Bobby Digital album? And they're like, nah. If I had to pick one song, this would be the song.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yo, this song is just is full of everything to me. Like
full of everything.
Like the impact that I'm thinking back to young Czar listening to this song and how captivated it was. Like I imagine I had to pull over to the side of the road if I was driving to listen to this song. Everything about it was just unconventional and different and
wild, bro.
Face, yeah. And full of like energy, passion. You know what I'm saying? Like
it felt like a real fight.
If you were driving, listening to this song, you could get pulled over and charged with domestic violence. Like just for listening to it.
Just for listening to it. Like this will set you off. This joint could set you off. And like, so I feel like this is a necessity for the album. Like this is the mascot to me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Team. Like to me, domestic violence is iconic in my that my opinion. This is an iconic song. Like across the board.
I would agree.
I'm prepared to be voted out on this. To me, it's definitely daring and brash in what it does, but to me, this is like the Kendrick joint on his last album, We Cry Together, or which a lot of people compared it to when that came out, or even like Eminem's Kim. You know, it's like, wow, this is crazy shit. Do I want to listen to this every time I put the album on? Absolutely not. Like to me, it's just like it's too negative, I guess, just for like it's just like, yo, tap into other people's stress real quick for 5 minutes. Like it's like, but it's, you know, you gotta salute people doing things that hadn't really been done. And even still, when all those other guys I just mentioned, when they do it, yeah, it had been done, but like this is a like type of song that happens in hip hop once every 9 years. You know what I mean? Like it's a cut for me, but I understand the reasons why anybody might want to keep it. But nah, it does have some hilarious retorts as well from RZA.
It's hilarious.
And her.
Bro. Yeah. And I gotta give credit to the fact that it is a phenomenal it's a phenomenal performance. The performance on this, the vocal performances on this song are 10 out of 10. Like from a person who records rap music, like if I had a concept and I needed to go execute on that concept and it was this kind of crazy concept, it would be hard to get the performances to be this great. Like everybody did their job to 11 as far as what you were trying to accomplish vocally. It sounds like a real fight. It sounds like this dude really don't fuck with this chick. And it sounds like she's in the house and it's happening. Like, and that you're listening to it happen. So one nugget saw when RZA, when I first met Kill Army and when I first met RZA, this was a Wu-Tang concert, or excuse me, it was a RZA as Bobby Digital tour. And he was at the House of Blues with Killer Army. He performed this song live.
Wow.
And it was bugged the fuck out.
Who did the woman's part?
He put a towel over the mic stand, and that was the woman, and he battled the woman on stage. It was fucking phenomenal.
Wow.
Phenomenal. And he was we moved to my lab, bitch, I ain't never seen him roll. He was going crazy. It was insane. So I have a vivid memory of watching this song get performed live. That was like, I would have never guessed that he would have performed this song, and he did. So shout out to that.
So you're keeping it?
Oh, super keep.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. So we're going to keep it. We're going to move on to track number 18. It's Project Talk featuring Kinetic 9.
Yes, sir.
So these songs, I don't remember on the CD, but
you didn't make it this far.
I definitely didn't make it this far. But in terms of credits on streaming, these songs are credited to RZA. These are not credited as Bobby Digital. So it is weird.
Because that wasn't what it was when it dropped. It dropped and it was
all
the
Bobby
songs
Digital.
on the album.
Yeah.
It was all on there. Man, that shit is fire, man. And what I love about that joint is first of all, I love the concept. Just Project Talk. Like, yo, tell you what's going on around the way. He doing that with Beretta. And like they on the phone. Yo, the click over part with Beretta. I was like, yo, that's so ill. Like that was so dope. And then you could tell that RZA was like really into this beat because this was the joint from Wu-Tang Forever.
This is literally
like he just
part 2.
Yeah, he just brought it back
Project
around.
Talk. Yeah.
It's
the exact same drums.
Yeah. Hey, yo,
it's the same drums. Yeah, it's the same drums. And in fact, if you listen, there's even the same sound effects. I honestly think that beat is on the same beat. It's another sequence with the Project's beat that he used on
You just fucked my whole life up because I knew like it's the same beat or same elements or whatever you will call it. Never in 1,000 years did I connect that it was Projects and Project Talk.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
25 plus years later, that's like...
Holy shit. I love that joint. That's a keep for me.
Yep. He just, all he did was mute the original sample and got Digi. Added some new synths. But I love it too. Like, I'm with it. I mean, I love the original track, Projects, and the back and forthness to me was what made it special. So
the back and forth was really good.
Keep for me.
Yeah, I do like the back and forth. The beat is cool. It's also like pretty short. It's not like it doesn't overstay its welcome. My vote was to cut it just because there's 10 songs and like I think we're going to be over. But this was like kind of a reluctant cut for me. No disrespect to Kinetic 9, who also appears later on the album anyway. But we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it moving. Track number 19 is Lab Drunk. I mean, can we cut this? Is it even possible? To me, this was a super duper keep. I wanted more of this. I know that this is completely derivative. It's just the Wu-Tang sound that some little Digi snack treats at the end of the album. But I to hear this at the end of the album, it's kind of, for me, a little wistful, like, could have used more of these on this Bobby Digital journey.
True.
I have to say, going through this, and especially listening through this in the way that we're doing it now, this album is not as bad as I remembered initially, and even in recounting it, like as I was doing my notes. Like, it's
so you remember we were talking on the phone the other day. So we try not to talk about albums before we do them, but we were talking about it, and I said to you on the phone the other day, the charm of this album is being able to get into their mindset making the album. Like if you can kind of tap into like the fun RZA sounds like he had making the album, it plays a little different to me. Like I can, knowing Beretta 9, I know Kinetic 9, like the way he walks, the way Kinetic walks and talks, this sounds like him.
Oh yeah. This is definitely his soundtrack to that. Yeah.
This sounds like the soundtrack to the way they hung out.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you think about me and Czar being brothers and everything, if you were a fly on the wall for me and Czar in 2005 to 2009, there's songs that you might like more just because you understand how we get down.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that this album plays a lot like that.
Yeah. Yeah, good point there. Yeah, I'm super keeper. There's nothing negative to say about this joint. I would be happy if this was the last song on the album. To be honest, Bobby kills it. You know what I'm saying? So I got nothing bad to say about it. It's a keeper.
All right, we're going to see. We're running over now, so we'll have to figure out. But We got 2 more to go. The penultimate track, Fuck What You Think, featuring Ninth Prince and Is Lord.
With Third Eye's a trillion million watts.
That's a lot of watts.
That's a lot of watts. I'll jump it off and keep it short. I'm going to cut it, actually. I've thought about it. I'm going to cut it. I like this song a lot, but in the 10 songs that we are going to keep, or that I envision that we would keep, this one isn't as good as the rest of those, and I would cut it. But I do have it's gotta. To me, this song represents everything that I find charming about this record. Like this has it in it. But with that being said, I would say I'm going to go ahead and cut it for the greater good.
I second that. And I mean, I agree with the charm thing. But what I'll also add to that is maybe that's why I'm so easy to cut it, is because that charm has already been represented through some other songs.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
It's not another iteration of the charm. It's kind of the same.
It's kind of superfluous in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, shout outs to, Knife Prince and everybody, but it wasn't anything to make me say, we got this song is got to be a must. So yeah, it's a cut for me.
Yeah, same with me. It's a good natured cut that we're doing. It's like, hey, good luck. We wish you the best. Like, let us know if we can help. Let us know if we can help you out on your journey later on. If you need a reference, maybe there's another Wu-Tang compilation album we can recommend that you go on. But there's not much we can do for you here. So we're gonna move on to the final album, or final song rather, on the album. It's Daily Routine featuring Kinetic 9. I mean, there's some of the science and mathematics you're talking about. He's kind of
that joint. I never heard a beat like that in my life. I remember hearing this song and being like, what the fuck is this beat? Like, this beat is so weird to me. And I love it. It's one of my favorite joints on the album, but it's the weirdest. It's so minimalist. There's no melody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's just dum, 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 dum. And I'm just like, I don't know. I can't explain it. I love the joint. For me, it's a keep.
For me, it's a cut. Like if they had packaged this as like Bobby Digital and stereo, and as a bonus, some very interesting RZA demos. Like I'd be like, oh, you know what? Like this definitely feels like a cool like moment. Like maybe like I like sometimes when artists give you a peek behind the curtain. To me, the beat almost sounds like kind of unfinished, because it is so sparse and kind of weird.
Real sparse.
Yeah. But to me, like Czar said, I would actually prefer to end the album on Lab Drunk. I feel like that would be a great way to go out. I don't know if ending it on a sparse, weird, puzzling song.
It would have been better in somewhere else. But
put it in between the 18 MCs who are all just break it up a little bit. But it's a cut for me. But I don't hate it. I don't really hate any of the last songs on the album here. It's just there's not enough room for it. Czar, you are the deciding vote.
Yeah, so I really have no love to keep this song. Shout outs to Kinetic 9 though, man. That's the homie.
Yeah,
right?
That's the homie.
But this song is a super, like, that beat, I have no enjoyment in that beat, like, whatsoever. Sorry. Like, that beat doesn't resonate at all with me. And, it was already mentioned, you mentioned it, Sean, but yeah, I would rather Lap Drunk be the last song. And so after already feeling that being my like thing, like I can't even go any further. So Daily Routine is a no for me.
Right. It's like a special feature on a DVD. It's like I might enjoy it. I might check it out, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, you gotta cop the DVD so you can see the special feature. It's like it's not essential to me. So we've run through and we have 11 songs. So we got to do a cut on one of these. This is what we have
11.
Kept.
Okay.
We have kept.
That's not bad.
Unspoken Word, Airwaves, Love Jones, N.Y.C. Everything, Holocaust, Terrorist, Kiss of a Black Widow, My Lovin' is Digi, Domestic Violence, Project Talk, and Lab Drunk. So we got to lose one.
Actually kind of tough.
This is a little tough.
Hey, usually, Sean, with these lightning rounds, we're like, there's definitely that one.
Yeah.
I don't immediately have that one.
So
look,
this is what I would say as I'm looking at these. I feel
Airwaves.
well. Ooh,
You said Airwaves?
Airwaves. Well, okay. I'm not instantly repelled by that. But what I was going to say is that there maybe is a little bit of redundancy between Holocaust and Terrorist. Do we drop?
Okay.
Do we drop Terrorist?
Oh,
Ooh, yeah, because I don't want to drop. I mean, based on what you guys said, even though my initial vote was not super strong on Holocaust, I know you guys feel strong about that.
I don't want to drop either of those. The first song that actually came up when you said the list, that I was like, all right, if I have to make a choice, I'll drop was my Lovin' is Digi. Because
okay, yeah.
We got two
because we have Love Jones, right? We
got Love Jones already. So it would be between Love Jones and My Love is Digi. If I had to release, like, I would get rid of one of the girl tracks, like. But I feel like Terrorist is a strong joint, and Holocaust is like Holocaust. So
what do you feel about Airwaves?
So Airwaves, I can let it go. Oh, the reason why is because it's. I think I may have went in detail earlier, but I feel like it's not part of the Digi sound. It's kind of just a plug-in song. It's RZA was like, this was dope. I did this. This was dope. Let me throw it in.
And it's literally on another album.
Yeah. So if that's a vote, I'm down to just remove Airwaves because everything else sounds more Digi and it sounds more
cohesive, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I would go for that. If that's a vote, I'm with that. Absolutely.
I am okay with losing Airwaves as well, based on everything that we just said. It doesn't need to be on here. Yeah. All right. So then we've cut it down to 10. Our revised version of Bobby Digital is Unspoken Word, Love Jones, N.Y.C. Everything, Holocaust, Terrorist, Kiss of a Black Widow, My Lovin' is Digi, Domestic Violence, Project Talk, and Lab Drunk.
Woo, that's a strong album.
So right quick, with the Make an Illmatic concept, because people have asked me this before. In my brain, it's not about like you're getting rid of bad songs. In some cases we do, right? When we are doing this thought project experiment. But for me, it's less about getting rid of bad songs. And it's more about if the album was originally presented to you with these 10 songs versus originally presented to you with these 21 songs, do you feel different? Right? And I feel like if the album is originally presented to you with these 10 songs versus those 21 songs, maybe it's still not it's still a jarring change. Yeah. But I do think it's accepted a lot differently.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially since a lot of the ones we kept were more kind of Wu-Tang-y versus some of the more look, none of this is super bugged out, especially in hindsight as you look back at it.
In hindsight. Back then it probably was.
Back then for sure. But I'll say this. I do think this album is improved, but I almost think that any version that we would have kept in just like trimming it down, it's fun to hear RZA have fun. And that, I think, is actually the best part of this album to me, greater than any of the songs. It's just like, oh, this is him in his sandbox doing what he wants to do. And like some of the stuff, it's like, I don't know if I'd necessarily want to like hang out there for long, but like, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah.
This album is closer to the Old Dirty Bastard album than people think, in my opinion.
Wait, the first album? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It, like, just in spirit. Like, to me, this album reeks of that record just with a different star.
Yeah. With energy? Yeah. I would agree with that. What you said, Sean, I think, like, puts a pen in it, like, is that RZA had fun. Like, you could tell he had fun with this record. And, I'm a big advocate for hearing people in their fun bag, like, when they're having fun, because I appreciate that they're being themselves, right? So
it's infectious.
Yeah, absolutely. And so hearing RZA be himself and full of energy. I mean, this record is full of RZA energy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's after a time where I felt like some of his verses were more more subtle and more whatever, less impactful on the projection of his lyrics. To me, he was very he's throwing projectiles everywhere, right? He was super into it, which is why domestic violence. I'm so big on that song is because it's so it has it's so passionate. So like hearing this to me, the 10 we have to me, I would probably give it an extra. What did I say? 3 before I said 3.
You said 3.
I said 3. I would give it a 4. After this, I would say 4 out of 5. Like I feel like it's a stronger record, less. You said did make it what making Illmatic's all about, and I feel like we did both of those things. We did remove some bad songs, and there were some songs that we just felt like, you know what, if we're presenting this to someone, this is what we'd rather them hear, right? So,
yeah. This bumps it up. I think for me, I was at like 2.5. This bumps it up to a 3.5. But that kind of makes sense. It bumped it up a mic. I was a little bit lower than you before. So it's a definite improvement. MidaZ, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm not going up to a 4.5, but I'm going up to a 4. So I had it at 3.5, and I would bring it up to a 4. I think it's a strong record if it's those 10 songs. I'm really interested to our questions fan base and making Illmatic people that, you know, are staunch listeners and supporters. I would love to hear you guys sound off in the comments about this album, because this album in my life has been one of the more divisive albums. Like, it's all over where people think about this record. Yeah. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about the selections that we made in the final project.
We're going to find out, and I'm sure it is not the last deep dive into RZA's musical choices that we'll ever make on this podcast. I have a feeling there will be others in the future that we may uncover and analyze, but this was great. This was fun, guys.
Yeah,
absolutely. Fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Sam?
Bobby.
Yeah, that was fun.
Digital
rude boy.
Yeah, it was it.